If a teaching about spiritual authority leaves a sick person more ashamed than before, pause and examine where its force has been aimed. Authority was never given so that the suffering could be accused. It was given so that what oppresses them could be resisted. Perhaps you know this double burden. Your body is under pressure, but your heart is carrying another weight. The suspicion that continued symptoms must prove some failure in you. Did I believe enough? Did I speak the wrong words? Have I disappointed God? You came seeking help, yet you left feeling examined. You needed companionship, but you received a verdict. That is the problem. Now, the desire to stand firmly against sickness is not wrong. We should honor divine power. We should refuse to make peace with affliction. We should not surrender hope merely because a battle has become difficult. These are sincere and worthy convictions. But a worthy conviction can be applied in an unworthy way. Faith does not become stronger by becoming cruel. Authority does not become purer by humiliating the person whose body is suffering. And certainty is not proven by assigning blame when an answer is not immediate. Notice the distinction. Sickness is the adversary. The sufferer is not. The condition is to be opposed. The person is to be loved. The affliction is to be resisted. The afflicted one is to be strengthened, defended, and surrounded with hope. Hold that contrast firmly, friend, because it will govern everything that follows. Compassion does not dilute authority. It directs authority toward its proper target. Tenderness does not make faith passive. It keeps faith from turning its strength against the very person it was meant to serve. We can be uncompromising toward sickness and deeply patient with people. We can speak with confidence and still listen with care. We can stand against affliction without standing over the afflicted. So, let the movement begin here, from accusation to agreement, from performance pressure to confident resistance, from lonely struggle to shared faith. If you are suffering, hear this plainly. You are not on trial. You do not need to hide your pain to deserve support. You do not need to perform certainty to remain worthy of love. We will not make your symptoms the judge of your character. We will stand with you, not against you. But before we learn how to speak against sickness, we must settle something deeper: who the suffering person is and who the suffering person is not. Who, then, is the suffering person? Not a diagnosis walking into the room, not a symptom wearing a name, not a problem for others to solve. The suffering person is a whole human being whose body may be under pressure, but whose identity cannot be reduced to that pressure. Language matters here. We sometimes speak as though a person and a condition are the same thing. We take what someone has been told, what someone feels, or what someone cannot presently do, and we allow it to become the first and final description of them. But having a condition is not the same as being that condition. A symptom may describe what is happening in the body. It cannot measure a person's worth. A limitation may affect today's activity. It cannot cancel belonging. A diagnosis may help identify a physical battle. It cannot deliver a verdict upon character or spiritual standing. Pause with me and see why this distinction is powerful. When the person is separated from the condition, love knows where to go, and authority knows where to go. Love moves toward the person. Authority moves against the affliction. We honor one, we resist the other. We hold the sufferer close without holding the sickness close. That is clarity. Yet when suffering continues, many people begin searching for a personal defect. Was there hidden failure? Was faith insufficient? Was one wrong sentence spoken? Dear one, questions like these may sound spiritual, but when they are used carelessly, they turn pain into accusation. They make the person carry the condition and the blame for the condition. Responsibility is not blame. A person may participate in prayer, pursue appropriate care, receive wise counsel, make difficult choices, and persevere with courage. None of that requires accepting condemnation. Participation says, I will take the next faithful step. Blame says, I am the reason I deserve this burden. Those are not the same confession. So let our language change. Instead of speaking to people as though they are broken identities, speak to them as whole, honored, and accompanied. Instead of treating symptoms as moral evidence, treat them as part of the battle being faced. Say, we see you, we stand with you, we will resist this without reducing you to it. And if you are the one suffering, let this become your own declaration. What is happening in my body is real, but it is not the measure of who I am. I have a battle. I am not the battle. I need support. I am not a disappointment. Name the condition honestly, but do not give it your identity. Resist the affliction, but refuse the verdict. Receive care, and remain rooted in dignity. Now that the person and the condition are clearly separated, we can look at the pattern of Jesus without mistaking compassion for concession. Now look at the broad portrait of Jesus in the Gospels. Suffering people came near him, interrupted ordinary movement, voiced desperate needs, and sought help in many different ways. Yet he did not treat them as inconveniences to be managed or failures to be scolded. He received them as people. That order matters. He recognized the person. He engaged the need. He confronted the affliction. He opened a way toward restoration. Notice what is absent from that pattern. There is no need to crush the sufferer in order to prove authority over suffering. There is no need to shame the burdened in order to show seriousness about the burden. Jesus could be decisive toward what oppressed a person while remaining present to the person who had been oppressed. Firmness toward bondage, nearness toward the burdened. We often separate these qualities because we imagine that authority must sound hard and compassion must sound uncertain. But in Jesus, strength and tenderness were not rivals. They served the same purpose. His compassion did not hesitate at the edge of another person's pain. It moved toward that person's good. His authority was not a performance of superiority. It was power directed toward restoration. This changes how we understand healing ministry. Compassion is not merely the feeling we have before something spiritual begins. Compassion governs how spiritual authority is used. It keeps the person from becoming an object. It keeps prayer from becoming theater. It keeps another human being's pain from becoming an opportunity for someone else to appear powerful. Dignity is often preserved through simple things: giving attention, remaining present, listening carefully, speaking directly to the person, and refusing to turn private suffering into public humiliation. These actions may not appear dramatic, but they reveal the character of the ministry. Dear friend, we must not imitate only the commanding surface of Jesus' ministry while neglecting the heart from which it flowed. Volume is not authority. Intensity is not authority. The appearance of certainty is not authority. A person can speak loudly and still aim wrongly. A person can sound bold and still leave the sufferer wounded. So test the method, not merely the sound of it. Does it recognize the person? Does it confront the affliction? Does it protect dignity? Does it move toward restoration? Here is the pattern in 3 movements. See the person, resist the affliction, preserve the person's dignity. See before assuming, resist without accusing, minister without humiliating. This is not compassion instead of authority, nor authority instead of compassion. It is one redemptive posture expressed in 2 directions: love moving toward the sufferer and resistance moving against the suffering. Hold them together. Refuse the false choice. Be tender with people and unyielding toward what harms them. Yet, compassionate authority still requires honesty, because refusing sickness is not the same as pretending symptoms do not exist. Perhaps you have been afraid to say what you feel. You have wondered whether admitting pain would make you sound faithless, whether acknowledging limitation would give it power, or whether repeating medical information would amount to agreement with defeat. So you learned to guard every sentence while your body continued to ask for care. But acknowledgement is not surrender. Acknowledgement says, "This is what I am facing." Surrender says, "This is all that can ever be." One reports the present battle. The other grants the battle, the final word. These are not the same thing. A present fact may be named without becoming a governing conclusion. Pain can be reported without being enthroned. A limitation can be respected without being made permanent in the heart. Uncertainty can be admitted without abandoning hope. Notice the freedom in that distinction. When honest speech is treated as dangerous, sufferers often become isolated. They begin offering acceptable answers instead of truthful ones. They smile when they need prayer. They remain silent when they need rest. They hide changes that require attention because they fear disappointing those who prayed for them. That is not fellowship, that is performance. Forced positivity may sound strong, but it can prevent a person from asking for practical help, appropriate treatment, patient companionship, or another moment of prayer. It rewards the appearance of certainty while leaving the actual person alone. Faith does not require that loneliness. So learn the language of honest resistance. Say, "This is what I am experiencing. This is the care I need. This is the step I am taking. And this condition will not define my worth or dictate the posture of my heart." Spiritual authority is not demonstrated by an inability to utter difficult facts. It is demonstrated by steadfast alignment, wise action, and love that refuses to abandon the sufferer. Authority listens. Authority responds. Authority remains steady when circumstances are uncomfortable. Now examine your own speech gently. Am I speaking from fear, expecting the worst before it arrives? Am I speaking from resignation, as though no faithful step remains? Am I speaking from performance, trying to appear untouched by a battle that is real? Or am I speaking from grounded hope, honest about the present, yet unwilling to let the present become my identity or master? Dear one, you do not have to choose between truth and faith. Tell the truth without bowing to fear. Ask for help without accepting shame. Receive care without surrendering hope. Let this be your declaration. I will tell the truth about the battle without calling the battle my master. I will acknowledge what is happening without allowing it to define who I am. Once honesty is permitted, the hidden damage caused by condemnation and performance pressure can finally be brought into the light. Once honesty is permitted, we begin to hear the questions shame has been whispering beneath the surface. Did I fail? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I doubt too much? Have I disappointed God? Why am I still suffering when others expected a different result? These questions do not merely examine an experience. They place the sufferer on trial. Healing ministry becomes distorted when every unresolved symptom is treated as evidence against a person's character or faith. Instead of helping someone face the affliction, we force that person to defend spiritual worthiness. Attention moves away from care and toward self-protection. That is not authority. That is accusation wearing religious language. There is a difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction brings something truthful into the light and points toward help. Condemnation takes the whole person and collapses them into a verdict. Unworthy, defective, responsible for every unresolved outcome. One opens a path forward. The other closes the heart in shame. And notice what performance pressure produces. People rehearse acceptable answers before anyone asks how they are. They conceal symptoms because they fear disappointing those who prayed. They dread follow-up conversations that feel more like investigations. Some withdraw from community. Others delay seeking further care because they have been taught that needing help reveals weak faith. The appearance of strength is preserved, but the person is left alone. Forced certainty often protects a teaching by transferring the burden of every outcome onto the vulnerable. If change is immediate, the method is praised. If the struggle continues, the sufferer is questioned. But authority that must blame the hurting in order to defend itself has already lost sight of its purpose. Now, we should acknowledge something with compassion. Uncertainty can feel threatening to ministers. We want answers. We want our prayers to produce visible results. We may feel pressure to explain what we do not understand, but discomfort never gives us permission to wound. An unanswered question is not an invitation to speculate about hidden guilt. It is an invitation to humility, perseverance, and companionship. Say, I do not understand everything, but I will not accuse you. Say, we can continue to pray without placing you on trial. Say, your dignity will not be exchanged for the appearance of my certainty. This must become a firm safeguard. Never preserve the appearance of authority by sacrificing the dignity of the person receiving ministry. Refuse that exchange. Reject that burden. Protect the person. Dear one, suffering is not a courtroom in which you must prove your spiritual innocence. You are not required to produce a flawless confession before you can receive love. You are not disqualified from care because the battle continues. Having removed the language of accusation, we can now build a vocabulary that is both authoritative and safe. Once accusation has been removed, our words can become instruments of resistance and refuge. They should do three things: make the adversary clearer, make the person safer, and make the next faithful action easier. Words matter. Do not turn the condition into the person's name. Instead of speaking as though someone is their diagnosis, speak of a person facing a condition. Instead of defining them by what they cannot presently do, recognize the whole person standing before you. The distinction may sound small, but it directs love toward the person and opposition toward the affliction. Our questions must change as well. Blame asks, "What did you do wrong?" Compassionate authority asks, "What are you experiencing? How would you like us to pray? What practical help would serve you? Is there anything you do not want shared or done?" One line of questioning begins an investigation. The other begins ministry. We must also refuse to make declarations about another person's hidden faith. We do not see every private struggle, every courageous choice, or every quiet act of perseverance. So, instead of judging what is within them, declare what we are prepared to offer beside them. We agree with you for help. We stand against this affliction. We will remain present. We will not accuse you. There is a profound difference between commanding an affliction and commanding a sufferer to perform confidence for those watching. One directs authority toward the battle. The other places pressure upon the person. Bold prayer does not require forced smiles, repeated phrases, public displays, or a denial of what is still being felt. Here is a simple pattern for ministry. Ask permission. Listen without rushing to correct. Affirm the person's dignity. Pray decisively. Then, agree upon appropriate follow-up. Let your words sound like this: "We stand with you. We will not call this condition your identity. You may speak honestly here. We will continue without accusing you. Tell us what support would be helpful." This language is firm, but it is not forceful toward the sufferer. It carries hope without pretending to control a timetable. It refuses to interpret every tear, silence, hesitation, or emotional response as spiritual evidence. It does not require the person in pain to protect the minister's appearance of certainty. Dear friend, after you have spoken or prayed, ask one searching question. Does this person feel accompanied in the battle or placed on trial? If your words have wounded, do not defend them, correct them. If your questions have pressured, change them. If your certainty has silenced honesty, make the room safe again. Speak clearly, listen humbly, resist faithfully. Language sets the tone, but safeguards must also shape what ministers do before, during, and after prayer. Language sets the tone, but love must also govern conduct. If authority is to serve the person rather than overwhelm them, it needs clear safeguards practices that protect dignity before prayer begins, while ministry is taking place and after the moment has passed. The first safeguard is consent. Ask before touching someone. Ask before sharing personal details. Ask before extending the prayer, calling others forward, or turning a private need into a public moment. A person does not lose the right to make choices simply because they have asked for help. The second safeguard is privacy. Another person's suffering is not material for a demonstration, a testimony, or a lesson without clear permission. Even when the intention is to encourage others, dignity comes first. Do not take ownership of a story that is not yours. The third safeguard is non-coercion. Do not demand visible emotion, immediate movement, repeated declarations, or public certainty as proof of faith. Do not make the sufferer perform an outcome for the room. Prayer can be decisive without becoming controlling. The fourth safeguard is practical wisdom. Prayer, medical care, rest, and assistance do not need to be framed as enemies. Compassionate spiritual support should help a person pursue wise care, not shame them for needing it. Faithfulness may look like praying, resting, asking questions, receiving treatment, accepting help, or taking the next responsible step. The fifth safeguard is honest follow-up. Check on the person, but do not interrogate them. Ask how they are doing, what has changed, and what support is needed. Do not examine every word, attitude, or facial expression for evidence of failure. Follow-up should communicate, "We still care," not, "You must now defend the result." The sixth safeguard is accountable leadership. Humiliating conduct must be corrected. Exaggerated claims must be refused. People must have a safe way to raise concerns without being labeled resistant or faithless. Authority that cannot receive correction is not mature authority. Now, these boundaries do not weaken genuine ministry. They keep authority aligned with love. They prevent vulnerable people from carrying the unnecessary weight of another person's ambition, anxiety, or need to appear successful. Leaders, examine the culture you are creating. What is celebrated? What is concealed? Are dramatic moments honored more than patient care? How are people treated when change is partial, delayed, or difficult to describe? The true character of a ministry is often revealed not by its most public victory, but by how it treats those whose questions remain. So, obtain permission, protect privacy, refuse coercion, honor wisdom, remain present, tell the truth. Let authority be strong enough to serve and humble enough to be accountable. These safeguards matter most when relief is not immediate, and everyone must decide what faithfulness looks like next. Then comes the difficult moment. Prayer has been offered, hope has been expressed, and yet the person still reports pain, symptoms, or limitation. Perhaps there has been partial change, perhaps the outcome is uncertain, perhaps nothing visible appears different. What do we do now? First, refuse the search for a culprit. Do not blame the sufferer. Do not condemn the minister. Do not seize upon one imperfect phrase as the explanation. Do not invent a hidden spiritual cause simply because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. A mystery is not permission to accuse. Perseverance may call us to pray again, but continued prayer must communicate companionship, not escalating pressure. Repetition driven by panic says, something must be wrong, and we must force a result. Steadfast prayer says, we remain with you, and we continue to resist without placing you on trial. That difference can be felt. Make room for lament, make room for fatigue, make room for questions that do not yet have answers. A person may need to speak about disappointment, changing limitations, or fear of what comes next. Do not interpret every difficult emotion as abandonment of faith. Sometimes sorrow is simply the truthful sound of a heavy day. A sustainable response may include further prayer, appropriate medical attention, rest, practical assistance, transportation, meals, adjusted responsibilities, or support from trusted people. These are not competing expressions of care. They are ways of refusing to let the person face the battle alone. Ministers, say what you know and admit what you do not know. You can say, I know your dignity has not changed. I know you remain worthy of care. I know we can continue in hope. And you can also say, I do not know why relief has not come as we desired. Humility does not weaken faith. It keeps faith truthful. Dear one, your belonging does not rise and fall with the speed of visible improvement. Your spiritual identity is not strengthened by a good report or diminished by a difficult one. The condition may affect your experience, but it does not become the judge of your worth. So let our language in the unresolved season be plain. We have not stopped caring. We have not changed your identity. We will not use uncertainty to accuse you. We will continue with honesty, wisdom, prayer, and practical love. This is endurance. Not one person carrying sickness while also defending their faith, but a community sharing the weight and directing its resistance toward the true adversary. Stay near, tell the truth, keep hope alive. This kind of steadfast presence reveals why compassion is not a retreat from authority, but one of its greatest strengths. Some still fear that tenderness will make healing ministry passive. They imagine that compassion will soften conviction, reduce expectation, or turn resistance into resignation. But that fear rests upon a false choice. Compassion does not weaken authority. It focuses authority. Without compassion, opposition becomes scattered. The minister begins resisting not only the affliction, but also the sufferer's tears, questions, fatigue, and honest report. Energy that should be directed toward the condition is turned against the person's emotions and character. The battle becomes confused. Compassion restores clarity. It says, the person is not my opponent. Pain is not a moral confession. A difficult emotion is not an enemy to be subdued. Then authority can remain aimed where it belongs against what harms, isolates, and diminishes life. Notice the progression. Safety permits honesty. Honesty permits accurate care. Accurate care permits sustained agreement. When people know they will not be humiliated, they can tell the truth. When they can tell the truth, those around them can respond wisely. When others respond wisely, prayer and support can continue without pretense. That is, strength with endurance. Compassion also makes it possible for sufferers to return. They can ask for prayer again without rehearsing acceptable answers. They can request help without defending their worth. They can remain connected to community even when the battle lasts longer than anyone desired. Shared authority looks like a community refusing isolation. It refuses to let a person be mislabeled, abandoned, or reduced to a condition. It says, "You will not carry this alone. We will stand with you, speak hope with you, and help you take the next faithful step." Dramatic intensity may command attention for a moment, but durable faithfulness carries people through the whole battle. A loud declaration can fill a room. Steadfast love can sustain a life. So hold the pattern together, tender toward the person, unyielding toward the affliction, truthful about the present, hopeful about what lies ahead. Not lowered expectation, but expectation governed by love. Not hesitant authority, but authority purified of accusation. Not passive sympathy, but active companionship that refuses to withdraw. Dear friend, compassion is not a retreat. It is the strength to remain near without turning uncertainty into blame. It keeps resistance clear, fellowship safe, and hope alive. The final movement now turns this framework into personal declarations and a repeatable way of living and ministering. Let us return to the test with which we began. If teaching about authority leaves the sick person more ashamed, it is aimed at the wrong target. True authority confronts sickness while protecting the suffering person. It resists affliction without accusing the afflicted. That distinction changes everything. Separate the person from the condition. Follow the strength and tenderness revealed in Jesus. Acknowledge present realities without enthroning them. Remove condemnation. Speak with care. Pray with courage. Remain present when the answer is not immediate. Now, if you are the one facing sickness, make these words your own. My body may be under pressure, but my identity is not on trial. I can tell the truth and still stand in hope. I can receive prayer, practical help, rest, and wise care without shame. I am not my diagnosis. I am not a disappointment. I am worthy of compassionate care. Say it without performance. Say it as an agreement with dignity. And if you minister to others, let these commitments govern you. I will listen before assuming. I will pray without coercing. I will resist without accusing. I will continue without pretending. I will protect privacy, honor wisdom, and tell the truth. Dear friends, let our communities become places where sufferers do not have to hide. Let them ask for prayer without entering a courtroom. Let them disclose needs without being reduced to those needs. Let them receive meals, transportation, rest, treatment, companionship, and spiritual support while retaining dignity through every stage of the battle. See the person, name the adversary, reject shame, speak hope, practice wisdom, stay near. This is compassionate authority, not softness toward sickness, but tenderness toward people, not denial of the present, but refusal to let the present define identity, not forced certainty, but steadfast hope expressed through truthful love. No sufferer should have to choose between honest humanity and confident faith. You may acknowledge pain without surrendering your worth. You may ask questions without losing belonging. You may receive help without accepting accusation. Stand firm against what harms. Speak life to the person. Stay near for as long as the battle continues. And continue learning, because mature healing ministry is formed in daily practice through identity rightly understood, words carefully chosen, prayer lovingly offered, and conduct shaped by dignity. Let these truths move from teaching into habit, from habit into character, and from character into a community where authority and compassion remain beautifully, faithfully joined.